In this video we're going to be setting up our tax rates, and before we do that I would just like to say that I'm not a tax advisor and the guidance that I'm given in this video is for training purposes only. You will need to consult your relevant tax advisor or accountant, or even in some cases your local inland revenue and perhaps maybe even customs. So to get started with our taxes, we go to System, Localization, Taxes, and we click down here on Tax Rates first. Now, as you can see here, there are two tax rates set up. They come down with the OpenCart store. Now, I'm not actually going to be using any of those two as they're not applicable to me, and I will be deleting them, but we can't delete them at the moment because they're assigned to our tax classes. So we'll come back to that later on. Now, I'm going to actually insert a tax rate here by clicking up here on the right hand side, Insert. Now, we've got to give our tax rate a name. So I'm just going to call this VAT 23% in brackets because my tax rate at the moment here in Ireland is 23%. So I'm just going to put in the 23 there, and the type is percent. You could have a fixed amount, but in this particular case it's a percentage one we're setting up, so we leave this at percent. Now, the customer group that we apply this to is our default customer group, which is basically all our customers on our store, all our retail customers, but we apply this to a geozone. Now, if we're selling goods or products outside of the EU from within Ireland here, we don't charge any VAT outside the EU. So we have to apply the tax rate here to a geozone. So we drop this down, and the geozone that we're going to apply this to is value added tax Ireland, Northern Ireland, GB and EU. Now these geozones, so we just select that. Then we simply go up on the right hand side here and click Save. Now we're going to create another tax rate, and to do that we click Insert on the right hand side again. So the tax name I've given this is B2B, zero VAT NIGB EU. B2B stands for business to business, zero VAT is as it says, NI is for Northern Ireland, GB is for Great Britain, and EU is for the countries in the European Union. Now I've gone ahead here and just filled out the tax rate of 0. When filling this out, always put in the decimal place, otherwise you won't be able to save it. So in other words, you put 0.00, and you can leave this at percentage. Now our customer groups, I've gone in and I've renamed the customer groups under Sales, Customers and Customer Groups, and I've also added a wholesale and a wholesale non-VAT registered customer group. So this tax rate here is a 0 VAT rate, which is an actual rate. So there is a VAT rate of 0 as opposed to being exempt from VAT. But this will only apply to our business customers who are VAT registered and who we validated that customer's VAT number to prove that they are VAT registered and that they are within Northern Ireland, Great Britain or the European Union. So in other words, business to business customers, wholesale customers. So we just tick this box here so that this rate will apply to our wholesale customers who we validated for VAT. And in our geozone we drop down and we select the 0 value added tax for NI, GB and NU, and then we go up to the right hand side here and click Save. Next we're going to insert another 0 VAT rate by clicking Insert. So we give our tax name here as ROW 0 VAT. Now ROW stands for Rest of World. We enter our tax rate here of 0.0. We can leave it at percentage. We apply this to all our customer groups, retail, wholesale and wholesale non-VAT registered, and we select the geozone 0 value added tax ROW. So basically for the rest of the world there will be 0 value added tax, irrelevant of what group your customer is in. Then we go up here on the right hand side and click Save. So now we're going to put in another tax rate by clicking Insert again. And we're going to call this one On Post 0 VAT. Reason being, the postal service here in Ireland has no VAT charge on top of the post cost, so we're just going to create this one here by entering the tax rate of 0.00. We can leave it at a percentage, and we can apply this to the 3 customer groups that are currently here. Drop down here and just make sure that we're selected to On Post 0 VAT all zones. go up here on the right hand side then and click save. Now I'm just going to create another one here, and this one is one I'm not actually going to be using, but just for description purposes we're going to call this we recycle fee. Now this will be relevant for the electronic recycling tax, and this is an actual fixed amount I believe, and I believe there are various fixed amounts depending on the price of the goods you're selling, so you would have to set up several tax rates here for we. Now the tax rate here we're just going to say 2, which is €2, and we're going to leave this as a fixed amount. Now where this would apply, I'm assuming it's probably only applying to retail, but again this is something you would have to check out if it was relevant to you. And we would select our zone here, perhaps maybe for Ireland and Northern Ireland shipping. We may even need to create a special geo zone, maybe one for Europe or one for international. I'm not sure. Again, it doesn't apply to me, so you'd have to check this out yourself. So I'll just click save on this. Now the reason I'm creating this tax is, like I said, just for training purposes, and this will become relevant now in our next section. Our next section here is system, localization, taxes and tax classes. So OpenCart comes down here with 2 tax classes already set up, so I'm not going to actually be using those tax classes. So we click insert on the right hand side, and we give our tax class a title up here, and then we give it a description. Then we come down and add the rule for the tax class, drop down our tax rate here, and as it's standard rate VAT, it's VAT at 23% for my store. And I'm basing the VAT on the shipping address, so then I just click save. Now I'm going to add another one here, and this one here I'm just going to call taxable goods, leave the description the same. I'm going to add a rule. I'm going to select my tax rate of 23% VAT, give it a priority of 1, add another rule, drop down and select my we recycle fee and give it a priority of 2. So the priority here for all intents and purposes is like a sort order. Now this is basically the tax on the goods, and as you can see it's made up here from the 23% VAT and the relevant we recycle fee. So we would click save here, and this will save the tax class for the taxable goods here. Now I'm going to add my final one here by clicking insert. I'm calling it on post 0 VAT rate, giving it the description and adding the rule. Now dropping down, I'm selecting the appropriate tax rate here, and this can be based on the store address here. It doesn't really matter, and click save. Now we'll have to delete those 2 that came down here. To do that, we'll first have to go into system, localizations and tax rates, and we're going to delete both of those tax rates out of there. Now to delete those, we may have to go in and edit them and temporarily just change the geozone that it's associated with. Save it, click here then and click delete, then confirm by clicking OK. Again, we may need to do the same with the other one down here. Click edit, change the zone here, click save and delete, confirm the deletion. Now back into our system, localization, taxes and tax classes. Now we should be able to delete those 2 tax classes providing they're not assigned to any products. So in the demo store that came down with the OpenCart, those 2 tax classes are assigned to products, but if you have cleared out the demo store, then you should have no problem deleting those by simply ticking the 2 boxes and clicking delete here. The final thing you would need to do then is go to System, Localization and Geozones and delete the UK shipping and the UK VAT zone by clicking delete up here, and then confirming by clicking OK. Now when we go in and edit our products on the data tab, we can scroll down here and see if they are applicable. So we have options here, basically to be none if you weren't VAT registered, or standard VAT rate, So we'll leave this here at the VAT standard rate. Now, the way it's set up, basically, even though there's VAT standard rate on this, if your retail customer is in the EU, they will be charged the VAT. If they're outside the EU, they won't be charged the VAT. And if a wholesale customer comes in and registers and you approve them, subject to you being satisfied that they have a valid VAT number, etc., they will not be charged VAT either. Now, in our shipping here, the tax class here, as you can see, would be on post. We wouldn't be selecting any of the other tax classes that we've set up, or none if we're non-VAT registered.